I want to start with the first question today, and I want to direct it to you because you're with SEMCOG, and this is what you guys do. But where do you see the region in 30 years? Welcome to another edition of Meeting with the Manager. I'm your host, City Manager Erik Tungate. On today's show, I have the honor and privilege of being able to introduce several members of our regional community who will be here to discuss economic development, transit, regionalism, and a variety of other issues. This will be a panel discussion. I will be speaking with C.J. Felton, the Director of Development for Community Housing Network, Marc Craig, who's the President of Community Housing Network, Edward Stencel, who's here, is the owner and operator of Rouge Brewery that will be locating on 11 Mile Road here in Oak Park. I will also be speaking with Amy Mangus, who's the Deputy Executive Director of the Southeast Michigan Council of Governments. Kim Marrone will be here as one of our guests. She's our Director of Community and Economic Development. And Colton Dale, whom I'll be speaking with later in the show, will also be one of our panel members. Now let's meet our guests.
Hi, I'm Marc Craig. I'm President of Community Housing Network. We're a nonprofit organization that was formed in 2001, and we work with communities to handle various housing needs of their constituents. Everything from housing counseling to homeless programs to community development that one of my colleagues will talk about in a minute.
I'm C.J. Felton. I'm Director of Development with Community Housing Network. And just to expand a little bit on what Marc said, we spend a great deal of time working with communities across Southeast Michigan to help them address their housing needs and planning for the future needs of their residents.
Welcome.
I'm Kimberly Marrone, the Economic Development and Communications Director for the City of Oak Park, and I work on things with the businesses in the city, helping them to expand and to stay here, as well as attracting new businesses and planning and zoning issues.
Welcome, Kim.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Amy Mangus. I'm the Deputy Executive Director of SEMCOG, the Southeast Michigan Council of Governments. We're the regional planning agency around Southeast Michigan, and we have many members at our local governments, 170 of them, of which we're happy to have Oak Park as one of our members.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Hello, my name's Edward Stencel. I'm the co-owner of Rouge Brewing Company, which we recently bought a building here in Oak Park. Will be opening sometime in 2019. I'm also the head brewer. Thanks for having me.
Welcome.
Okay, my name's Colton Dale. I'm Community Engagement and Development Specialist at the City of Oak Park. I handle a lot of the public information and communication functions of the city, and I'm happy to be here, Erik. Thanks.
Welcome. I want to start with the first question today, and I want to direct it to you because you're with SEMCOG, and this is what you guys do. But where do you see the region in 30 years?
That's a great question. I see the region as a place that still has a lot of diverse places that now are better connected than ever before, whether it's with transit, driving, multimodal, such as more bike lanes and even maybe scooters to get people from their jobs back to their homes.
Yeah. And Marc, what about you? Where do you see the Detroit region in 30 years? So much has happened in the last few years. So 30 years from now, where are we?
Sure. I think that there's still a lot of growth potential for the region. I think both in terms of housing, which is our specialty, but in terms of economic development as well. I think that if cities work like the way that we're seeing Oak Park and some other communities working, to be thoughtful in their planning about being diverse in their housing choices, creating opportunities for people to live in the same community where they work, providing a good educational system, providing good transit. I think that this region could become much more vibrant.
In Oakland County, in 30 years from now, We don't, I think to Mark's point, there's not a tremendous amount of housing diversity in terms of mixed incomes. So have we made it to the promised land in 30 years? What do you see?
Well, we certainly hope so. I think if you look at the work that we do, we are reliant on policy for the most part to provide the resources that we need to do our work. There's just not enough private equity that can be invested in the types of things that we do. So I think we look to Washington, D.C. and the state of Michigan to help create those vehicles that allow us to do what we need to do. We know we're facing an extreme shortage of senior housing. That will be, it's actually already here and will be upon us in full force in 20 years. And that can't be solved with people like ourselves or even at the local level. We need some people to address that at a much larger level.
Sure. Colton, now you live in Midtown Detroit, if I could say. And so, and you're a millennial, which I think is very interesting. What are the ingredients that are missing for us to arrive there? I mean, is it transit? Is it, policy? Is it federal policy? Is it other things like that, in your opinion?
Yeah, I think really it's all of the above. I think it's going to take a lot of pieces of the puzzle to come together to create a Metro Detroit that is cohesive, vibrant for everyone. One of my top issues that I would say, I think, is transportation. I think all over the United States, and you're seeing it in Metro Detroit, the country really is going through a transportation transformation right now. If you asked me a year ago, I wouldn't have thought that electric scooters would be on the streets of Detroit, but that's kind of where we're going. So I think we keep seeing that progress being made and the diversity of choices that people have. I think we will become a top 5 metropolitan in the country.
Right. Edward, why choose Oak Park for your burgeoning business? I mean, you could have gone anywhere. Why choose here?
Well, because this is a great location, great area. What's going on here in Oak Park, the surrounding communities, there's a lot of growth, young families moving in, a lot of people saying that this is a community that has a lot of potential and a lot of opportunity, and that's probably, that is the main reason. It seems like the other communities in Metro Detroit are kind of have been developed or overdeveloped, and Oak Park has a huge potential right now.
Do you attribute that to some of the things we've talked about already, the affordability of Oak Park, the proximity to the core city? I mean, what specific?
I would say both of those things. The proximity to where it's located in the Metro Detroit area and the affordability. I mean, if you look at communities like Birmingham, Royal Oak, Ferndale, even Hazel Park, they've become very expensive in the last year or so, last couple years. And Oak Park is still very affordable, and it has a lot of wonderful things to offer. And one being location, one being, a very nice community that is changing before our eyes.
And so back to you now, the trends that you see. We have a big census count coming up that we're preparing for because obviously we want the highest participation possible. But the trends that you see, are we finally starting to see the reversal of some of the outward trends that we've seen in the last 30 years?
Over the next 30 years, we're going to be seeing a much older Southeast Michigan, the aging of our population. We're going to have an additional 400,000 people in our region over the age of 65, and we need to be able to plan for them and have the housing that they need. So that's a big part of it. Another part I think we see coming in our region is really the embracing, like what you're doing, of placemaking and the impact that that has to the quality of life for people wanting to live, work, and play all in the same area. So I think it's really great what we're seeing happening in Oak Park and the surrounding communities that you're partnering with.
And I think it's a very key point. And Kim, I wanted to bring this next part back to you. Kim and I talk a lot about placemaking and the built environment, and I think my opinions are very well known because I share them with everyone, of course. But I have always said that I would rather invest taxpayer dollars, if I had to invest taxpayer dollars, in the built environment and making it the very best place possible versus just giving out tax breaks. And I've always said that that will bring in more businesses than any tax incentive tax break you could ever imagine, because the world has changed in the sense, to your point, that businesses are going towards where the highest quality of life is and where the amenities that they want to get to are. And we've become a region now, Kim, and I want you to comment on this, where people, and I'm one of them, our family chose to we live in Royal Oak now, and we've chosen to live closer to the core city because of some of the traffic congestion and other things like that. So, what are your views on these incentives and placemaking and things that we are doing specifically here?
Yeah, I would totally agree with you. I'd rather invest in the built environment. Over a decade ago, I'd say the trend started changing where people would look for their job and then, move to the job. Now they're looking for the community they want to live in and finding a job nearby. And of course, congestion and traffic play a role in it. So they're looking for a community that they can enjoy after hours and somewhere that they don't have a long commute to work. And the biggest problem we hear from employers is they can't find enough talented employees or enough employees, period. So having a community that attracts people to live in it by giving them that built environment that they're seeking will help the businesses locate here because their talent is here.
Yeah, absolutely. So CJ and Marc, as you guys get applications for the housing project here in the city of Oak Park, what's the number one thing they say? They're applying for this because of the things we just talked about, or is it other reasons we're not mentioning?
When we first conceived of the Jefferson Oaks development in Oak Park, and incidentally, I do want to put in a plug for the city because the city government has been a pleasure to work with. From everything from the elected officials to the planning department to every single aspect of working with the city has been favorable, has been well thought out, has been done in a planful way where the city said, yes, we agree with the goal of promoting affordable housing, of having people be able to live and work in the same community. And our promise at that time was to come in and produce a very high quality housing product where anybody, including me and my family, would be happy to live in those apartments. So I think it's creating a desirable living environment in a community that's been well thought out and works with development partners in a planful way.
Yeah, absolutely. The development is a very attractive development. I was just over the other day, like I said, and it looks fantastic. It's beautified the area. It's made it much more appealing.
Well, and that was our promise going in. And I think that too is that the other thing is that when you're attracting organizations like businesses or housing developers or whatever, it's a long haul proposition. It's not just a come in, get it done, and and leave and go on to the next thing. I mean, everybody that I've talked to with the city views things that way, and in a way of building a stronger, more sustainable community for all of us in the long run.
Yeah, no question about that. Okay, so pivoting now, Colton, I want to get this. I joke about millennials. Obviously, I'm only joking because I do think there's tons and tons of great things going on. One of which I think it's the next generation, the millennial generation, has forced a lot of us, and I'm a Generation Xer, so I'm not that far removed from it, but has forced a lot of us to rethink leaders and where leaders come from and all of these different things. So could you speak a little bit about, generationally maybe, leadership in a new generation, a new way of thinking?
So in terms of being a millennial, I think this may be an unpopular opinion, but I think we're one of the hardest working generations because we are doing unpaid internships, we're going above and beyond, and oftentimes getting paid the least to do it in comparison to other generations. But I think that's only going to make us tougher, harder working, and I think when my generation gets a chance to be in more leadership roles, elected, appointed, and otherwise, I think we're going to change the way leadership looks. I think we're going to change government for the better. the private sector for the better. And really, it's when I think about these types of things, it's probably the number one thing that I'm most looking forward to in the future is my generation getting a chance to lead and make tough decisions on behalf of the localities, state, country, and otherwise.
When you think about, one thing I'm always amazed with millennials is that they do not look at race, gender, any of these things. None of those things mean anything to them. And to me, that is a great thing. That is something that there's a level playing field, morally or ethically even. And do you see that as well?
Yeah, I do. I think my generation has been able to see some extremes of political leadership. Barack Obama and Donald Trump, who have extremely different views on the world and extremely different leadership styles. So we get to see those extremes. We get to see a lot of the bad that's happening in the world and in government. And I think we get to use that knowledge to our advantage and grow stronger from it and be better people from it.
Oh, that's great. Nice job. A brewery is something that I had never dreamed we would be able to land your business like this quickly. But when you look at your vision for the area on 11 Mile Road, and we just received a grant working with Berkeley and Huntington Woods from SEMCOG, and I want you to speak about this too. What do you envision for 11 Mile Road and the impact that you'll play there?
Well, I see it as a location that can become a destination location for people to go out to a brewery, to a restaurant, just to take a stroll along the avenue there. I really think it has everything that a business is looking for as far as one of the big things is space, parking, the ability for your customers to get there and have not a struggle or a hassle, but you have 11 Mile, which is a main road, and you have plenty of parking. The city's done a great job with putting the parking there, and that's something where our current location in Royal Oak, that's a big issue, parking, and that's one of the things I hear from customers all the time is like they have a hard time trying to come to my business because of parking. And I look at that 11 Mile corridor and the way it's set up with the parking and just the main roads there, Coolidge, Greenfield, 11 Mile, ease of accessibility, plenty of parking. It seems like an ideal place for businesses to develop.
Sure. So we've received more than a couple, I think, grants from SEMCOG at this point, this being one of them, the 11 Mile corridor and Coolidge there, working with Berkeley and Huntington Woods. Why are we getting these grants? I know we're applying for them, but we seem to be winning them more. And is that because we're just at the table more, or what would you attribute that to?
We look at these opportunities, whether it's grants to implement projects, and we have some of those grants available, or planning projects. How can we take the work that we do at the regional level and bring it back at the local level to really implement a project or to do a deeper dive on planning that needs to happen to really implement the regional plans that we've all worked on together, not just the staff at SEMCOG, but all of us together have worked on. And so we're really excited when some of our members, such as yours, come forward with projects that, one, collaborate with your neighbors, which is a core foundation of what SEMCOG was formed on, was working together in collaboration, and also pick projects that implement the work that we've talked about. For example, one of the issues we have in 11 Mile in Coolidge is it's fairly high, I believe, for pedestrian bicycle crashes. So having you all come forward and say, I'd like to look at this corridor and what kind of opportunities there are, that includes all of that, just implements the work that we want to see done in these regional plans. And it's very gratifying for me and for our whole staff to be able to work regionally, but really see local projects implemented.
Sure. So Kim, we've done tons and tons of different things. We've amended our master plan. We have, some of the infrastructure projects that we've talked about going on. But we also have pretty innovative, unique things that I think really demonstrate some of the regional partnerships. And one of those is MOGO. And I wanted you to weigh in on that and then some other things.
We're going to have 5 bike share stations in the city of Oak Park and 30 throughout the region. And we partnered with the communities of Berkeley, Huntington Woods, Royal Oak, Ferndale, and the city of Detroit. And then that'll help people get to that last mile of work. And we'll probably also promote some recreational bicycling as well. So we see it fitting two goals.
Yeah, and I always say this, I'm a pretty, not an avid biker, but I bike. And I was always amazed, really before Kim came, that people, and especially in our community, did not realize that there was a regional bike system if only we connected some of these spots. And Oak Park is a pretty key part of that. I mean, we connect into Ferndale and the Avenue of Fashion into the city, and I definitely think we've achieved getting the notoriety, getting the message out because of the projects and some of the success we've had. Any other final comments? Yes, sir.
I would have to say that one of the things that has impressed me about Oak Park, the city, the people that run Oak Park, the people that I've met, is that their friendliness, their openness, their professionalism. It just gives me as a business owner a very good feeling that I'm going into something with people that they're partnering with me, and they're very. It's a positive feeling that you don't always get in all communities, and I think that's something you touched on about a unique group of people that you have right now in Oak Park running the city. And I have to say, yeah, I can say firsthand I've experienced that, and that's a really important thing, and that's creating a really positive energy that I think other business owners and other people are going to look at Oak Park and say, hey, that's a place that I want to check out and possibly move to and either start a business or buy a home here. So I think it's a really good thing you guys got going here.
Thank you.
Continue to do what you're doing. Continue to collaborate, build relationships, look for those partners that might be a little different, but you still have the same vision and end goal in mind. You're doing an excellent job here, and I think I just see more and more good things happening in Oak Park.
Well, thank you. And if you guys will continue to fund our grants, we'll be all set with that because we're trying hard. I want to thank you guys. Seriously, thank you so much for coming here today. I know people are going to get a ton out of this. Next up on Meeting with the Manager, I have the honor of introducing Colton Dale, who's our new Community Engagement and Development Specialist. You may have seen him all over town at various functions, and today we're going to get an opportunity to learn a little bit more about him and what he's doing for the city government. Welcome, Colton. Good to see you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for being here.
Absolutely.
I want to start with a question about you, because again, as I mentioned, people see you all over the community at various events and things. So tell us a little bit about yourself and your background.
Sure, absolutely. So I grew up on the east side. I've been a Metro Detroiter my whole life. When I was young, I took an interest in government and politics. So when I graduated high school, I went on to Wayne State University. I got my bachelor's degree in political science there. Worked mostly in political campaigns for a while. And after the November 2016 elections, I decided to go back to school and earn my Master of Public Administration degree from Wayne State again. And it's that time when I took a big interest in local government. So that's when I decided to look around for internships, and I really had an interest in city management. So I was super fortunate to be able to get on your team, Eric, and spent 6 months as an intern under you, spent 6 months as an intern under Economic Development Director Kim Marrone, and then that's what led me to this position. I'm super fortunate to be here.
Yeah, and you know, we are a little bit unique here in that we have a position in community engagement and development. So tell people what that position does here at the city.
Sure. So community engagement really is, it's about communications, it's about public information, and it's about interacting with the public. So the things that I do on a day-to-day basis is manage the city's social media, such as Facebook. It's also involves putting together the quarterly magazine, the calendar, some of the email communications that the city does, but it's also building relationships with the media.
You know, I know, you know, the position that you're in, you're all over the place all the time. There's many things happening all at once. So how do you stay motivated and keep that trajectory, that positive trajectory going?
Yeah, sure. I throughout all my my academic career and my my professional career, I've always had a passion for helping people. So I think that's what I get to do in this role, and I feel lucky to be able to do that. In this role specifically, I get to help people stay active in their community, stay involved, stay informed, and those are the types of things that keep me motivated, is to be able to offer those services to the residents of Oak Park to make sure that we can do the best job for them here.
Yeah, and I think, you spoke about your internships here with the city. One of the things that I noticed right away is you do have a passion for public service. And it's great to see that, and let's be honest, a younger person, it's great to see that. And, I'm always interested to know your perspective, because you're our millennial representative here. What does the future look like? What do you see happening here in Oak Park and then in the metro area, and maybe even in the state?
Yeah, so in Oak Park, I mean, I feel just really lucky to be a part of what's going on here. There have been so many exciting things going on just here in this city, just while I've been here in a little over a year now. Yeah. And I can't wait to see what more is to come, but I know we have a lot of work cut out for us, but I have no doubt that the team that's here right now in the administration can continue the work, continue the progress, and build upon a lot of the things that we've already been doing here. So I think Oak Park has an extremely bright future. I think Metro Detroit has an extremely bright future. And I think the state of Michigan has an extremely bright future. And I'm really looking forward to being a part of it all.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that, you see more and more, especially in my position, but also in yours, is that communication itself plays, nonverbal and verbal communication, internal, external communication, all of the above plays such a critically important role in everything that we do. I was curious to see what your thoughts were about that.
Sure. So, we live in the day of, unfortunately, fake news, alternative facts. It's a constant news cycle. Things are being pushed out all the time from every which way. So I think it's important. The role that cities take in communication is vitally important, because cities have the duty to not only provide the information to the residents, but to get it right and to do it right the first time. So I think the city's communications are just really important for keeping the public informed and involved when, in this day and age, they're getting so inundated with news and different points of view.
Yeah, and what role does honesty play in that? I know when we try not to over-communicate, because we do want people to pay attention to the communications we share with them, but we always try to be honest and forthright. And what role does that play in your view?
Yeah, absolutely. Honesty probably is, I would say, number one. If you're not being honest in your communications, you're doing it all wrong, in my opinion. So we, in my role, and as well as Kim, who's my immediate director, honesty is key, integrity is key, and like I said, getting it right the first time is key, and making sure that our residents have the information they need at the time that they need it, and that the information is correct.
Absolutely. Now, where do you see communication going? We're always in a state of change here in the city of Oak Park, which is something that I think is what I credit with some of the improvements we've made, is we're always prepared for change. Change is a constant. So we can always improve and make adjustments. Where do you see us taking this communication function, community engagement function? Is it going to the next level, and how do you perceive that to be?
Yeah, I think so. I think communications right now is going through a bit of a transformation. We might be at the tail end of it right now, of the transformation, because things like Facebook and Twitter have been around a while now. But people want sound bites. People want short clips. They're not going to read, not all of them at least, aren't going to read, 10-paragraph essay. So what we like to do is try to keep it short, keep it succinct, so that we're giving residents the information they need and really nothing more, because anything else on top of that might just be fluff that they don't really need, and we want to make sure that they get what they need in a timely fashion.
Definitely. Very vital role here at the city, and I want to thank you for being my guest here today and allowing me to introduce you to the public. Thank you very much for being here.
Thank you very much, Eric.
I want to take this opportunity to thank all of our guests who were on the show. I want to thank our residents for their support and participation. Please join me again next time for another edition of Meeting with the Manager. Thank you.